Hi and welcome everyone. So today is a little bit different where I'm not really making a bookish video, but it's something that I think I need to create right now that could be useful for other people, and that's what I'm hoping for. So grab some tea or something. I'm gonna try and keep this as relaxing as possible. Deep breath is a good thing to do right now. And get ready for a list video. I've got, it wasn't really rushed, but shitty makeup because I couldn't be bothered, but it was good as a de-stressor. I've got less plants with me right now because I kept tipping the jars over and spilling the water, but hopefully the background still looks fine. Here we go, and I'm gonna use my own journal as an example. So yes, this is what this video is about today. It is about things that you can do while you've got an anxious mind. I'm gonna try that again. Journaling for the anxious mind, and that's the title of this video. Hello, welcome. I've already said that. Okay. So as a thing that I do a lot, what I'm doing currently, the first is lists. All different types of lists. Most of the lists that I do write are to-do lists, mainly because lately when I've got an anxious mind I tend to forget a lot. And even if writing a list with a dozen or more lines stresses me out, not remembering those items stresses me out more. So I will write the littlest things in my to-do lists. There's something I've mentioned on my Instagram is I try to make my journals as visually appealing as possible. So one of the things I've done here is I've written a to-do list on the back of a receipt from a bookstore, I believe, and I've pasted it in with things floating around it. I'm gonna find a list though. Okay, here's what most of my lists look like. A crazy mess of things. There have been some times where I've tried a new thing where I've listed thoughts rather than a to-do list. So in the little top here I've done a little bit of a dot point of thoughts, which semi became a poem, and then I wrote it into a digital zine I created. And the same with this one as well, where it's just a list of songs. Another thing I try to do a lot is stream of consciousness writing, semi. Often when I'm feeling stressed or upset, I find it really helpful to just unload those thoughts, because then it takes the weight off of it residing in here and it just lives on the page. So let's find an example. I think this was a semi-stream of consciousness. Often when I go down to the page, it is. End of the page, I mean. So often stream of consciousness, the idea behind it is to tap into subconscious thoughts that we don't allow for, don't give space to in our conscious minds. Often comes out during dreams, but during the stream of consciousness, oh my god, it'll really love the surrealist. During the stream of consciousness writing process, you tap into those thoughts. It works sometimes, other times it doesn't. sometimes it's just really hard to switch off the active brain. So the cat was meowing and it was so loud. So sometimes it can be really helpful to try and do a stream of consciousness writing. It can be done to music, it can be done to the quiet, it can be done anyway really. Sometimes I like to play music in the background because I'm gonna put my phone on silent, because music puts me in certain moods and then that mood can carry out into my writing. And it's a thought that I've had recently that writing takes a lot of energy and emotion for me to do, in a way, because I put a lot of emotion into what I'm writing. So sometimes when I put on, most of the time when I put on music, it'll generate an emotion within me and then I can use that emotion to then put down onto a page so I'm not feeling as emotionally exhausted after writing. I don't know what's going on there. It sounds like some spiritual experience, but yep. Piggybacking off of stream of consciousness, the more purposeful journal diary entries, where you write, today I did this, or tomorrow here are the plans and this is how I'm feeling. I do a lot more, I've been doing a lot more of those recently over stream of consciousness, simply because these thoughts take up so much space in my mind. I find it more helpful to get those thoughts down in a diary-like way. I had a visitor, had to turn off the camera and I don't remember where I left off. Yeah, so just doing doing a diary entry helps unload those thoughts and gets them onto the page. It's kind of like crying, where you do the act and then sometimes you feel better afterwards. So there must be, yeah, I didn't know where I was going when I started that. It is often helpful, so that's something that can be tried. Something that I do almost every time I sit down to journal is I get up Pinterest and I type in journal aesthetic, or like I put in journal and there's another word that always goes with it. Often it's prompt, sometimes it's aesthetic. I kind of just have the screen up in front of me of whatever these pins are, and I don't often do anything that's on the screen, but it helps trigger something in my brain that's like, okay, we can do this. I don't have any exact examples because I don't often record when I write from a Pinterest inspired thought, I don't know. But when I do search for prompts, and you can Google this as well, just Pinterest kind of just puts everything together in the one topic, moo. It kind of it just condenses all that's in Google, I suppose. Either way, there's no right or wrong. And yeah, so often with some of the prompts I find helpful to trigger a certain thought or make me think about certain things. So if I'm looking for like a writing prompt, there have been a couple of times where I've created a character and then I've put this character using a different prompt into a scenario and I've written it. That's in another journal. I haven't done that too much recently with this journal, but it's something that I do find helpful sometimes. Another thing that I got reminded of while flicking through my pages, quotes. Quotes are actually so good. So it doesn't even have to be something serious or inspiring or deep. It can be like as simple as a nursery rhyme, but if it elicits some sort of emotion within you and you want to include that within your journal, then you know it's the sort of quote that you want to include in your journal. Because often I find what I do with my journals is I flick through. So I mainly started journaling because I was like, every writer needs a journal, and every thought I have will one day be helpful while writing. While young Julia was right, she's also kind of wrong, because not every thought leads to some story idea or some big thought. Small thoughts can just be that. They can just be a throwaway comment, a throwaway idea that you just need to get down, and it doesn't even matter if you use it later. There's always the hopeful idea that you do use it later, but it's kind of like the editing process. You want to have that second document next to your written piece, because if you delete anything, do not delete it forever. Put it into another document and save it, because it could become useful later on. In one way, I'm grateful to young me for being like, we're gonna start journaling for this reason, but then it did grow and adapt into journaling for everything. So I think I've mentioned this, maybe not on my channel, my YouTube channel, but I've definitely mentioned it on my Instagram, which is in the link in the description box below if you want to check that out. I have a suitcase where I've kept all of my old journals, so yes, I do sometimes sit down and flick through them when I can be bothered opening up the suitcase, because it's actually really heavy now and I have it shoved under my desk. But it's such a weird emotion. It's part nostalgia, part grateful, part intrigue, and there's so many other things depending on what I've come across in an old journal, that anything that I found worth putting down is valuable for a reason. Like it all just matters, and it doesn't matter what it is, but whatever it is, it matters, past, present, or future. Like it just, I don't know, I don't have any psychological words for it. I did psychology in high school, but we didn't get into the nitty gritty of, yeah. So I can't even explain that, because I don't know what I don't know. So yes, so anything that you feel worth putting in journals is worth putting in journals, full stop. There doesn't have to be reasons behind it. It just, if it is, it is. But back to prompts, because I left something out. Sometimes it's good to find a prompt that challenges you to do something, because it's getting your brain to work in a different way. So getting your brain to work in a different way to what's currently happening and perhaps leading to you feeling anxious can be a nice reprieve for a little bit while you're undertaking this challenge. An example of doing something that doesn't really, like, it, just doing something for the sake of doing something because it's right for you while journaling. I deadass have a whole page of just washi tape for no reason, but it was on a night that I wanted to journal, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do something. And I've got like a tube of different coloured washi tapes, and I more or less did it in the order of the tube, and the last two down here from that tube. And I sat down, ripped out strips, stuck it in. Then a little while later, I don't think it was on the same night, I went to the next page and wrote this in, and then obviously moved on because I've done stuff afterwards. And now whenever I flick through and I see this spread, it makes me so happy. It's colourful, it's not really a pattern, but it's aesthetically pleasing to me, and it makes me happy. And one of the goals for this journal was fat, happy, colourful. So it doesn't matter if it's some shitty spread like this where you've done nothing but stick stuff in, good. Because if that's right for you, then you have to do it. Another thing that I've written down is stick things in. It can be mementos, it can be things that you've found in a magazine. So I've kept this little tea bag packet thingy, and it still smells of peppermint tea. It's so good. So I've stuck that in on this page, the receipt with the list, as I showed earlier. I've got a paint swatch, I've done some doodles, and I've got some stickers. It doesn't have to make sense, it doesn't have to have a real reason, except it's what's right for you. I stuck in this, it was a menu thingy. So I went to a Japanese restaurant and you ordered by filling this thing out. I think it's a common thing. I've never done it before. So I thought it was interesting, kept it, and then I stuck it in. And then I've got this thing. I was gonna do words around it, but then I left it blank for ages and I ended up just drawing scribbles around it, and that's fine. This was a tissue packet thingy. I stuck it in, and then in here I've literally just shoved things in. What do you got in this one? So we've got I've got some Pokemon cards. I've got a game card there, like you went to arcade thingy and used it, a business card, and went to a music exhibition thingy and we got a mixtape. So it doesn't have to matter what it is, but if you want it there, then that's good enough reason. Ooh, trying to stick everything back in. Let's try and see if I can find what I'm looking for. Something that I like to do is write down definitions to things. So what I've done here is I've looked up different divination thingies. I meant to say research. I like to do research sometimes. Just like small research, tip of the iceberg sort of stuff. So yes, for this example, I did divination research and I picked random types of divination and wrote down what they are. So an example is okay, I'm just gonna go with this one because it's the shortest one. Dracomancy, the divination by dragons. So it doesn't need to doesn't even have to be anything serious. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be artful. It doesn't have to be aesthetic. I'm just trying to find this one page so I can get on to my next idea thingy. Found it. Okay. Yes, so it doesn't have to be good. This next page certainly isn't good, but another thing that I like to do is switch off and just doodle. So switching off can include just, it's kind of like stream of consciousness, no right way to do it, but often I like to distract my mind with something, so often that will be music. It can be a podcast, can be an audiobook, it can be a movie that you've watched billions of times. It's something to occupy one part of your brain, and then you do something else while part of that brain is occupied, and you occupy it with something else. I've done a really bad job at trying to explain it. But yeah, switch off and doodle. This is my switch off and doodle. I was probably listening to music. Oh, another good thing that you can do while doing something, probably, I'm not the best drawer. That's why I say doodle, as I can't really draw at all. Like, I try to draw. Then I wrote here, my specialty, alien looking shit, because it doesn't even look like a proper hand, and that body is probably not proportionate at all. But I just did stuff to fill up the page because I was probably, oh my god, if you can hear the screaming kids in the background, I am so sorry. The kids next door, I think, are a bit cabin fever-ish right now. They've been screaming for days now, while every time they go outside. Anyway, but yeah, it's just, sometimes you need something that numbs one part of your brain, that being music, TV show, movie, audiobook, podcast, YouTube videos. I think I've listed all of the options, probably wrong. ASMR rooms, I missed that. Just something to occupy one side of the brain that's not using all of it, and then another part of the brain using just to get energy out through just moving your hands on the page, doing whatever. And I find that's often relaxing, paired with a good cup of tea, and good times ensue. Another thing that links to writing lists, something that I don't really do often, just because I find that doesn't often work for me, but it can, and it depends on the mood and it depends on the person. Write an account of what you're grateful for, and it doesn't have to be the big stuff like your health, a house over your head. It could be very small things like your favorite scented candle burning at the moment, you had a good cup of tea, you ate some good food, you washed your face for the day, you put on some makeup. It doesn't have to be big things, and I find that it's a lot better to write the little things, because the big things, it's what stressed me out in the first place often, like thinking about health, thinking about money, thinking about housing, but it's the little things that's often overlooked that, when put together, it creates a positive emotion. So there's been one time, and one time only, where I've done that in this journal, I'm fairly sure. and it was one of the first pages. I think I wrote this in the journal before I even did the start page. Reflections. And I'll read it out. It says, this morning I felt like death. I was supposed to wake up at 6:30 to give myself time to shower, eat and make lunch. Didn't happen, but the day quickly got better. Played Pokemon on the train. A ladybug landed on me and stayed for me as I stayed for a while as I was walking. A very relaxed day at work. Lots of coffee. At lunch outside in the sun, and the rice was delicious. Saw a hilarious Phantom of the Opera reference. Got to meet the lovely Japanese woman at work. A little bit of alcohol. An email from my honours supervisor. And some playtime of Katamari. And now to continue writing my novel. So, as you can see, I'm smiling as I'm thinking about that list because that ladybug was cute and that rice was so good. It's often just little things, and that's what we need reminding of sometimes. And it's good to record it so you can go back and you can feel what you felt while going through the things that you're remembering, or the remembering how you felt as you wrote them down. And so that concludes this video. I always try to make short videos. It never works. I talk way too much. Thank you for watching. I hope everyone is feeling well, not too stressed, but hopefully this list can help you. And I do highly recommend that if you have not tried journaling before, or if you don't have a journal, please start one. It does wonders, even if you're not prone to anxious thoughts, if you're not artistic, if you're not a poet, if you're not very good at collecting thoughts. Even if you just have a journal to stick in receipts here and there from different places, write down a couple of thoughts, and I promise it is worth it. Yeah, back on track to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day.